And this conference realignment talk just keeps getting juicier and juicier, and it appears some of the attention is starting to shift away from the Pac-12 and what's going on there over to the ACC and what's happening there. Those rumors of the ACC's potential collapse are starting to heat up. There's a scenario brewing that could potentially lead to one of West Virginia's biggest rivals, or even multiple rivals, landing in the Big 12. So pull up a chair, sit back, relax, because we're going to talk about it. What is up, college sports fans, Big 12 fans, and fellow members of Mountaineer Nation? This is Couz, and welcome in to another edition of Couz's Corner. Pull that chair up. Let me serve you up another shot of top-shelf college football content. On tap today, we are once again talking about conference realignment. This time, we're getting back onto the ACC. If you remember the other day, I did an interview with Mr. TJ from the Double Fries No Slaw Pod. He's a Florida State guy. Thanks to him for sending me this information that I'm going to present to you today in this episode. He sent me a video by someone by the name of David Hood, who's with TigerNet.com. Mr. Hood and TigersNet claim to be the oldest and largest source of Clemson football and recruiting news and discussion. So based on their history and a little bit of research I did, this gentleman appears to be well connected. He appears to know what he's talking about. The first thing I want to point out is that he made a comment that Mr. Greg Swain, who a lot of you have went after on Twitter saying he don't know what he's talking about, he has confirmed from talking to some of his sources that a lot of the stuff Greg Swain has been tweeting out actually has legs to it, folks. Go back and look at Greg Swain's Twitter account. It's under Swain Show, at Swain Show on Twitter, SWAIM Show. And look at what he's tweeted out about the ACC. And according to David Hood with TigersNet.com, or TigerNet.com, I should say, some of it has legs. The second thing I want to get to, and the most important piece of this episode, is Mr. Hood reported that Clemson, Florida State, North Carolina, and Miami are all four working together to try to get out of the ACC. We already knew about Clemson and Florida State. We had heard rumors about UNC and Miami. But TigerNet.com, David Hood, has said it is happening. Based on what he's hearing from his sources, it is happening. Now, here's the piece I want to focus on in this episode, and that's this. In this same episode that Mr. Hood mentioned this, he also mentioned that two other schools have joined up with these four to try and find a way to get out of the ACC and to basically kill that grant of rights deal they have. Those two schools are North Carolina State and Virginia Tech. That's right, one of West Virginia's biggest rivals, the Virginia Tech Hokies, is allegedly trying to get out of the ACC along with the other five schools I mentioned. Now, if you recall, I did a video recently with TJ from Double Fries No Slaw that I just mentioned. And he talked about a way these schools could leave the ACC without having to worry about breaking that grant of rights, which would cost them between somewhere in the neighborhood of $700 million. Now, no school wants to pay that kind of money or lose that kind of money. But there's a way that they could actually get out of the ACC where they wouldn't have to do that, and that is if they get at least 8 schools to vote to leave the conference at the same time. 8 would be a simple majority. There's 15 teams. 8 is a simple majority vote. Conference is basically their grant of rights deal would basically be null and void at that point. Conference would likely collapse. David Hood in his video confirmed the same thing. So this talk about a vote of 8 is apparently accurate. That's what it takes to kill this ACC grant of rights, and it looks like it's getting closer to happening. They've already got 6 teams, folks. They only need 2 more. They could go out and get Pitt to join. Pitt, I'm sure, would love to get into the Big Ten. They're an AAU school. I'm sure they would love to get into the Big Ten. They could get UVA to join in. An institution with high academic standards would love to get into the Big Ten. There's been talks that the Big Ten and SEC would both love to have Virginia. So maybe they join the fight. Maybe a team like, I don't know, Louisville. Maybe they try to get into the SEC or, heck, even the Big 12. Who knows? But the bottom line is they only need 2 more schools to join this fight and for all 8 of them to vote to leave for this thing to collapse. Now, I understand they all have to have homes to go to. They all have to have conferences to go to. But I don't think that's out of the equation. I think it's extremely doable. It would be difficult, but it's doable. If you get 8 of those schools to vote to get out of that conference at the same time, the ACC is absolute toast. They're gone. They're done. Now, another interesting piece of this video by David Hood over at TigerNet was when he talked about a conversation he had with someone at a Clemson spring game recently. He said that he was having a conversation and he was talking to someone who would know better than him. And he made a comment that he didn't think, or Mr. Hood made a comment that he didn't think Clemson would be playing football in the ACC in 3 years. And that person who he said knows more than him replied back, I would put money on that. I'm going to repeat that again. A person who David Hood claimed would know more than him about the situation said he would put money on Clemson not being in the ACC in 3 years. That is big, folks. I'm telling you. This thing could be happening quickly, a lot quicker than we anticipated. Mr. Hood went on to say, now this is a quote he said in his video. He said he thinks Clemson's athletic future and the future of the university will be decided in the next 2, 3, or 4 months, end quote. He stressed he didn't know that for sure. No one told him that. It's just a gut feeling he has. And keep in mind, this guy's been covering Clemson and the ACC for many years and has a lot of sources, apparently. Now, he could be wrong, and he even admitted he could be wrong. And I don't know this guy. Like I said, I just discovered him because of the video that TJ sent me. So this guy could be off his rocker for all I know. You tell me, Clemson fans in the comment section, is this guy off his rocker? Does he know what he's talking about? Or is he a legit source that knows what he's talking about and is onto something here? I want to hear your thoughts, Clemson fans. And also, Clemson fans, let me know, do you see this happening? Do you see this unfolding? Do you see Clemson getting out of the ACC in 3 years? I want to hear your thoughts about this situation. Now, as far as this impacting the Big 12 and their plans, well, we all know Brett Yormark has mentioned many times he would like to get into the Pacific time zone. We've also heard from Dennis Dodd, who did a podcast recently. Dennis Dodd said that Big 12 might get tired of waiting on these Pac-12 schools to make a decision and go to a plan B. And he even mentioned potentially adding more Group of 5 schools. I personally don't think that's going to happen. I think Brett Yormark is going to turn his attention east. And he's going to be like, you know what? These Pac-12 schools are taking too long. Let's pause a minute. Let's take a look at what's going on over here in the ACC. If they fall apart, there are some teams there that could really help our league. Teams like Virginia Tech that I mentioned. Teams like Pitt that I mentioned. Teams like Louisville that I mentioned. We heard ESPN's leader not long ago in an interview say that rivalry games are what they're looking at now when it comes to what games they want to feature. They want rivalry games. They don't look at markets anymore. They look at games. They look at the content. What better way to add games and rivalries to the Big 12 than going and getting Virginia Tech and Pitt for West Virginia, or getting Louisville for Cincinnati even? Think about that. Those would be big-time games. Big-time TV viewership numbers would occur from those games. So maybe he shifts his attention there instead of focusing on the Pac-12. And heck, who's to say he can't do both? Maybe you had a couple teams from each conference. Or maybe you get in the Pacific time zone by simply adding Gonzaga in basketball. He can still check off his list, hey, I added a team from the Pacific time zone, but now I'm going to go over here and grab some football schools from the ACC. Maybe that's what he's looking at doing. And hey, as a fan of West Virginia, look, I'm not cheering for the collapse of the ACC. There's a lot of quality schools in that conference. It's a historic conference. You've got UNC and Duke basketball. What a rivalry. What a tradition there. A lot of tradition in the ACC. But it would be crazy for me to root against getting teams in our league that are our rivals. I'm not going to root against that. It's what many of us West Virginia fans have been yearning for. We could stay in the Big 12, which we love and feel like we fit in well with culturally, while also getting regional games back on our schedule. And not only games, but conference games. We play every single year, or at least most years. And there are conference title implications to these games that mean more. That's what we would love to have. It'd be the ideal scenario for us. What a great situation that would be for us West Virginia fans, and even fans of UCF and Cincinnati for that matter. I'm sure they would like to have more teams from the eastern part of the United States in this conference. So hopefully, if what's taking place right now in the ACC, if it happens, then I hope we're able to benefit from it. Anyway, let me know, folks, in the comment section, what do you think about this scenario? How do you think it's going to play out? Do you think Mr. Hood is onto something here? Do you think he knows what he's talking about? Or do you think he doesn't? I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section. Also, I want to give a shout out to a partner of this channel, Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters. Please support them by going to the link in my description box, or just going simply to their website, blueridgecoffeecrafters.com, making a purchase of some of their coffee. I've got a bag of the caramel right now. It is delicious. I love it. It's some of the best coffee I've ever had. It's not bitter. It's smooth. It's not acidic. It's made with hand-picked coffee beans. I'm telling you, you won't regret getting you some of this coffee. Go check it out now and put Couz's, C-O-U-Z apostrophe S, or Couz's Corner in the comments at checkout to let them know you found out about it right here on my channel. You can also hit the heart thanks button right below to make a one-time donation. You can join my channel. There are a lot of other ways, or a few other ways you can help me out in the description box. Some other links you can go to merch stores, Fanatic shopping, things like that. But you can also support me for free. That helps me out as well. You can hit the like button. You can share this out with your friends. You can drop that comment below that I mentioned, and you can subscribe to my channel here. And all those things will help my channel grow and help this content get out to more people. So with that being said, I really appreciate you tuning into this episode. And until the next one, Q Country Roads.
West Virginia, proud to mama, take me home.